Isle of Raasay R01 lightly peated Hebridean single malt Scotch whiskey, their first regular release. Is this worth your money? Stay tuned for the Whiskey Whistle. Hello everybody, Mark here from Whiskey Whistle on YouTube, sharing a little whiskey awesomeness from Winnipeg, the center of North America, bringing you Isle of Raasay R01 lightly peated Hebridean single malt Scotch whiskey. This is their first regular release. I think let's get rid of that box, shall we? Beautiful bottle. It reminds me rather of something kind of like an older tequila or rum bottle with its sort of modeling. And apparently that's to emulate a still shot of the sea and the what can I call that, the what's that graph called? Topography. There we go. Yeah, topography. All right, so anyway, that's their first regular release. Super excited about this. It's 46.4% ABV. Big thumbs up. It's unchill filtered. Huge thumbs up. It's natural in color. Yes, baby. Yes, fantastic. So we love that. It's got all the things you want. It is missing an age statement, but it is, commonly, publicly, it's just understood this is about 3.5 years old, maybe 4. So anyway, the question we want to find out today is, what's it like and is it worth 100 Canadian dollars plus shipping? So it cost me about $110 all in. Let's pour it and find out. And this is take 2, hence the slightly dirty glass. It's not dirty. There we are. About a nice 30 milliliter pour, very nice. So here on Whiskey Whistle, if you're just joining for the first time, we go through everything about the whiskey, all the senses, the sights, the color of the whiskey, the legs of the whiskey. Then we get into the smells, the nose of the whiskey, followed by the tastes, the palate, as well as the finish. And the mouthfeel, that's the sense of touch, right? And then we'll give it a Whiskey Whistle whiskey score after trying it with water as well. So let's get started with that. And if you're jumping in for the first time, why not subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, ding ding, so that you are notified of future Whiskey Whistles. And if you're a long-standing sort of viewer here on Whiskey Whistle, then why not jump in and support the channel and join the Whiskey Whistle crew on Patreon, patreon.com/Whiskey Whistle. Get your name in the credits at the end of this video and all future videos. And also you'll get advanced viewing of future Whiskey Whistles up to about 24 hours, advanced notice of live streams, and eventually some bespoke content for you as well. Not to mention, you'll get a Whiskey Whistle glass after a particular, let's say, threshold. Once a threshold has been reached, about $3 or $4. All right, so hopefully that will spur you to check that out. So the color, we got something that is nice and light golden in color. So a nice light gold, pretty dark considering it's 3 years old, 3.5, maybe 4. All right, and then the legs of the whiskey. Let's check that out together. Okay, here we go. So the first legs that I see are rather thick and medium speed, heading back to the pool. And then the secondary legs, which hopefully you can see from your aspect, really stick to the glass. They're very slow, and they're just hanging out there, just barely trickling down. So this tells me that we've got a lot of, first of all, we've got just about the right ABV. 48% is most viscous if it's just alcohol and water. Add to that cask content. Add to that congeners, which are not chill filtered. This is natural in color. It's unchill filtered. And anything else? Well, age. That just extracts more things from the wood, doesn't it? Previous cask content also plays a part. All right, so anyway, nice legs. We're gonna have a nice rich mouthfeel. All right, let's check the nose out. So they call this lightly peated. Meanwhile, it's beyond Springbank. Springbank is lightly peated. It's beyond Ardmore's new legacy, or whatever it's called, the basic bottle that's at most liquor stores. And it's approaching the level of Bowmore. Bowmore is a heavily peated Islay single malt Scotch whiskey. Yes, I say heavily. It is certainly less than Ardbeg, but it's still quite heavy, isn't it? Something kind of like the peated Arran, the Macri Moor. This is quite similar. All right, so anyway, for the smells, I get some interesting red currant, some blackberry, of course, some nice smoke. It's like a subtle, very clean wood burning stove type of smell, where you're almost just getting like the smell of the wood itself, and less so the smoke, kind of like sauna. So a bit of cedar, maybe a little bit of cedar pellets in there, or cedar logs. There's a little bit of pepper, there's a bit of ginger. There's a vanilla caramel type of quality in there as well. And it smells really, really nice. And it does not smell like a 3.5-year-old whiskey. Casks, by the way, this has seen 3 different types of casks, and it's a blend of peated casks and unpeated casks. I should say peated malts, peated distillate, and unpeated distillate. That's better. Okay, so we've got peated rye casks, peated chinkapin oak casks, peated Bordeaux red wine casks. The rye cask probably is first fill, the chinkapin is probably virgin, and the Bordeaux is probably first fill. Then we have unpeated, the same casks. So you have 3 different types of casks, 2 different types of peating, peated and unpeated, making for 6 different combinations that are blended together for this particular release, R01. Okay, so that's the facts. Let's get into the palate. Cheers. Now, right off the bat, I'll tell you, this does not taste like a young whiskey. It doesn't have the young whiskey raw almondine-like flavor, the putty, the clay-like flavor. So it's really, really well made. I think that's a very narrow cut, which is very good for young whiskeys. I hope they do some beefier cuts into the heads and tails for their whiskey casks to be aged longer. I should mention a couple other things here. First of all, the Isle of Raasay, quite a small island. 161 people live there. Interestingly, about the water, they've got mineral-rich water, and they also ferment 3 to 5 days, which helps develop a sweet blackberry characteristic, which is really interesting. I think I mentioned that, and that's one of the first things that came to my mind the first time I tried this. And there we've got this blackberry note in the distillate itself. They use Scottish barley, and it is malted with Highland peat. So it really is a Scotch whiskey through and through. It's of the earth of Scotland and of the hands of Scotland. And, well, I would say it is a product whose customers primarily will be in Scotland. All right, so again, the palate. Now, those Bordeaux red wine casks just add a little bit of light fruitiness kind of like if there was such a thing, an orange strawberry type of a chewing gum, Trident or whatever. We have some nice green herbals reminding me of Tobermory a little bit. The peat itself is not sooty. It is, boy, for lack of a better word, kind of like Danish rye bread. It's oily, a little bit of blacktop, like the asphalt. When they're just laying that down, you get a little bit of that in the flavor. Not that I lick that, but you know what I'm saying. There's this nice mintiness, peppermint, quite a nice rye kick, mid-palate, heading into the finish. We also have this slightly salty, vanilla, caramelly type of dessert. The finish is dominated by the rye spice from those rye casks. So lots of green, lots of pepper, lots of mint. And I have to say, I really think that the rye casks work very well with peat. So let's add some water here. I'm going to add a little bit more. Whoops, as I spill it. There. And one thing I noticed as well, right when I pour it, within minutes, you get a little bit of flocking already, telling me that this was just very, very barely filtered. They filtered out the char bits, a little bit of wood or whatever, and they left everything else intact. All right, so let's get onto the palate with water. And if you've tried Isle of Raasay R01 lightly peated, then why not leave me a nice comment here, tell me your thoughts, your tasting notes. Get involved here, all right? Okay, so the nose. More blackberry, but also more peat. The Danish rye bread note is coming into the nose here. Ginger is still there. Slightly more vanillins. But that blackberry, the red currant, still very prominent here, pardon me. All right, on to the palate with water. Cheers. On the one hand, it really softens things in a good way. And by the way, it's very, very waxy on the palate. Bang on that the legs really, really confirm. I should say the mouthfeel really confirms what the legs were telling me. And yet this is also more peat forward with water. A little bit more salt, a little bit more of the fruit, and then the finish, that aggressive rye bite is still there. This would really be very much a Canadian whiskey lover's favorite, just because of the way this closes the event. And as I'm talking here, the finish, that rye bite, the peppery, minty, green, spicy greenness is crescendoing here. So it's not petering out yet. And just around now, I'm getting to the height of the finish. my mouth, my tongue is slightly anesthetized by that aggressive rye. And again, I think the rye and the peat really play well together here. Final taste. I'm just so surprised how delicious and easy drinking and flavorful, flavor rich, unique, balanced, nice young whiskey that doesn't taste like a young whiskey this is. Love the rye component. I like the waxiness a lot. The peatiness is, I'd say, great for almost anybody. This is in the category kind of somewhere in between, where you're going to have some people that say, no, it's just too peaty for me. And others will say, oh yeah, wow, that's really unique. I love the saltiness. And by the way, my lips are even, I feel like I've been to the dentist and had a couple of shots. All right, now before we get on, before we get on to the WhiskyWhistle Whiskey Score, I want to talk about the new setup. So I bought a boom arm, a blue boom arm. This is whatever it's called, the catapult. No, it should be called the catapult. It's called the whatever it's called. It's gone. And I bought a pop filter so that way my P's and my T's, my K's shouldn't have such a hard sound for you anymore. Let's hope. But hopefully you like the setup. Probably I'll do some podcasting, and I think this will be ideal, and I can have the video feed as well as the listening only feed for people that like it that way. By the way, this setup, I thought, I should do like a Elvis Presley little intro. One for the money. Okay, there you go. Terrible singer. Okay, and then I can also do the classic horse looning sounds like this. Love you, horse. So yeah, really interesting whiskey. Now let's get on to the WhiskyWhistle Whiskey Score, shall we? So what is that going to be, folks? What's the WhiskyWhistle Whiskey Score going to be for Isle of Raasay R01 lightly peated? It's going to be 88 out of 100. You heard it, 88 out of 100 is the WhiskyWhistle Whiskey Score for Isle of Raasay R01 lightly peated, their first general release. Well done. I mean, coming out, bam, with something that's that good. Well done. Pardon me. And I noticed that some companies are losing the packaging. You might want to as well, but surely, I'm sure this is probably mostly recycled paper, and it will recycle yet again. So food for thought, right? There's a lot of information on the box that you just can't fit on the bottle. So what do you do? Anyway, let me know your thoughts on Isle of Raasay, this R01 lightly peated first release. Share your thoughts, share this video. Tell your friends to go try Isle of Raasay because Mark said to try it, okay? Anyway, take care, folks. Check me out on Patreon. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.